I am so excited today to be talking to my dear friend, collaborator, Felicia Keller-Boyle. We go way far back, I think, at this point in our careers in these businesses that we have. We have our own podcast together, What Your Therapist Thinks, which is a top-ranked mental health podcast. So we're always podcasting together. But Felicia, for listeners, do you want to give a quick introduction of you and your work?
Sure. So like Christy said, I'm Felicia. I am a licensed therapist in California. I started working in community mental health even before I went to graduate school to become a therapist. And then I started my own private practice where I was able to work just 3 days a week, no weekends, no evenings, and generate 6 figures my very first year fully licensed in my private practice. Around the same time, my friends started taking notice and asking me for advice about their businesses. So I leaned into business coaching, and that is what I do now. I'm known online as The Bad Therapist. I have a podcast called The Bad Therapist Show, and I used to be a person who really disdained marketing, but now I'm actually a huge fan. So Christy, thank you for having me on to talk about marketing for private practice.
So Felicia and I were texting, what do you want to talk about? What is the advice that kind of grinds your gears a little bit that you hear being shared online? So today we're talking about how a lot of therapists think that they can invest in more trainings or just be a really good therapist and they can kind of get out of marketing. So let's get into it.
Yeah.
Hey there, I'm Christy Plantica, and I'm the founder of Place Digital, a boutique marketing agency for therapists. This is Practice Marketing Insider. Each week, I examine one piece of outdated or overblown marketing advice for therapists and explain why it's inaccurate and what you should be doing instead.
Perhaps the biggest myth with marketing when it comes to private practice therapists is that you don't have to do any marketing at all. We spend tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on our businesses. That is what people who are really, really successful are doing. And it's not true that the answer to having a successful business is just spend as much money as you can as quickly as possible. That's not what we're saying. But we are saying that very successful business owners are making large strategic investments in their businesses, oftentimes in the realm of marketing.
Yeah, you can't get around it. I always say business and marketing go hand in hand. One cannot exist without the other. So thinking you can get out of it, it's just you got to work on that first. People want to believe that they're the exception and not the rule. And the rule is you probably need to invest in marketing heavily.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially if you're a private pay provider, because you just need to get in front of a lot more people in a lot more places.
Volume.
It's a volumes game.
It makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
I remember having this friend, and I've talked about her so many times, if you're listening, Kristen. I was so envious and so frustrated because she was having a lot of success right out of the gate, right out of grad school, and I was not having the same amount of success. Meanwhile, I had a lot of experience working in the field, much more experience than most of my peers had because I got started in the mental health field when I was still in my undergrad. And then did all of this work in nonprofits and in agencies prior to even going to grad school. So I really had this chip on my shoulder of I already know how to do this. I'm already really good at this. Of course, I'm just going to get clients. And I had no concept or appreciation for the role of marketing. And then occasionally I would have these friends and colleagues who also weren't doing much marketing, but were having success. And I was really confused because I thought, okay, well, maybe if they're not really doing much marketing, then I guess you don't have to do much marketing to get clients, but I'm not getting the amount of clients I need. So maybe I should do some art. It was just so confusing. And what I really came around to eventually was I am not the exception, I'm the rule. Yes, there might be some unicorns out there once in a blue moon who, quote unquote, don't have to do marketing, but I clearly was not that person. So at a certain point, I just had to get on board with the fact that it didn't matter that I was a great clinician and that I came in having all of this experience. I actually needed to do the marketing.
Well, even those exceptions, those are so precarious. They can disappear into thin air, right?
Oh my God, and that's what happened. That's what often eventually happens for those people who are having success and they don't really know why. there's not actually a marketing strategy behind it. They're not actually sure why they're having this success. It is incredibly precarious because they don't know what mechanisms are at play. If it stops working, they don't even know what it is, right? What was the thing that was working in the first place? If you don't know the answer to that question and then you stop hearing from clients, then you have no way to influence that. And then you're in this position where you're sometimes years into your practice and whatever was working before is not working. And you're now realizing for the first time ever, you have to go learn about marketing. So I am always so happy whenever early career therapists come to work with me because I'm like, we are going to set you up for success. We are going to get out ahead of these problems so that you are not relying on like magic and you have like actual things that are working in your business.
One of the reasons I have been thinking about this more is because I think some therapists think that they could get out of it for whatever reason.
That's probably the most overblown piece of advice. And what's really sneaky and insidious about this advice is like, you will hear from therapists, especially older, seasoned therapists who built their practices in a different era, or occasionally your own colleagues who are at a similar place in their career but are just the exceptions, right? And they're having that luck or good fortune, or there may be something that they did in terms of marketing that they're somehow not even able to describe or identify, right? So it's like they actually are marketing, but they can't tell you how they're doing it. What's so sneaky is you will hear from these people that, well, I didn't need to market. Like, I just got clients. I just did da-da-da-da-da. I just got this training. And then God forbid, you're considering investing in marketing and you speak to one of those people and they're like, oh my God, you're going to hire someone to build your website? I don't even have a website, honestly. And like, I do fine. It's like, good for you. You built your practice 30 fucking years ago.
Just network. What's the big deal?
Just network. Let's just do that. If you're listening to this podcast, you obviously have some conception that marketing matters. And that's probably happening because there's a result that you want in your business that you don't currently have. And you have an inkling that marketing probably has something to do with that. You are right. You are correct with that hunch. And so even if there are other people out there who are seemingly having success without marketing, the very fact that you are listening to this podcast means that you are not that person, which doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you or you're not a good enough therapist. So like those are actually two different things. A lot of people think, well, if I'm just a really good therapist, if I have all of this training, if I'm really good at what I do, then I'll get clients. And so if that's not happening, then sometimes we begin to doubt ourselves and doubt our abilities and think, well, what does that actually mean about me as a clinician? So then we'll do this thing where, let me go get more trainings. No. More clinical trainings will not fix a marketing problem. What you actually need to do is put your energy into developing a really solid marketing strategy for your business. So again, if you are listening to this podcast, you are moving in the right direction and you do in fact need to care about marketing. And I just want you to tune out the people who are over there telling you that you don't, because they are wrong. They might be right for them. They might be right 20 years ago, 30 years ago, but they are not right for you today. So stop listening to them.
I'm interested if you've noticed this too. A lot of the kind of discourse I see online or the marketing materials I see from other marketing agencies or business coaches, it's always talking about building your practice. And it's almost by not using the word business and saying practice, we can kind of sidestep like actual business advice.
You and I have been talking about this for years.
Yeah,
I remember
exactly.
having this conversation years ago about like, how interesting that we call it a practice. And I think there's something really beautiful in that, but it also is a way to evade and ignore the fact that these are businesses and are subject to the laws of business in the same way that we are subject to the laws of physics. You don't get to opt out of physics. If you're running a business, you don't get to opt out of the way business works.
Gravity's gonna happen, so.
Yeah, whether you believe in it or not, like you're affected by gravity. It's like whether you like it or not, if you run a business, you're subject to the laws of business.
And I think that's, for me, very comforting because therapy, a private practice, is a service-based business. So we're not reinventing the wheel every time when it comes to marketing. We're just doing best practices for a service-based business, at least with the type of marketing that I do. I could probably give the same advice as I would to a plumber, as I would to a therapist when it comes to high-level best practices. Again, I think there is a lot of beauty in I run a practice, and that there's therapy is so special.
Absolutely.
Like it's beautiful,
We're
but
not saying you're a plumber,
yeah.
and it is important for us to get more humble and to stop seeing ourselves as like better than or outside of. Like you said, we fall into the category of service-based businesses as opposed to product-based businesses. And even though there are a lot of unique things about marketing a therapy practice, there are a lot of things that marketing a therapy practice has in common with how other service-based businesses market. And like you said, that's actually a really good thing because there are already best practices that we can utilize. We don't actually have to start from scratch. And having that humility of like, yes, we're special, but we're not so special that we get to kind of like use that as a reason to hide. That's really important for us to confront.
Yeah.
I would
And
always tell my therapy clients, like, congratulations, you're not that special. And I think that
yeah.
applies to therapists too. It's like, congratulations, therapists, you are not actually that special. It's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think if you have your marketing in place, you have consistent enough lead generation to fill and then maintain your caseload, which if you're a solo practitioner doesn't have to be that much, honestly, because hopefully you're just retaining your
Right.
clients for a long time. You don't need 50 leads a month if you're a solo practitioner. If you're a group practice, you need to maintain a really high volume over time. But that lead generation, I think, provides peace of mind in many different ways.
100%.
And one of them is just, I know that I'm going to have business coming in because I'm pretty sure any business owner I talk to, at least for the first couple stages of growth in private practice or really any business, is their business coming in? It's so exhausting. It's so tiring. So if you're going to invest in anything right away or really any time, I would argue that marketing should be the largest investment. I'm super biased. But also, you're a private practice coach and you think marketing is great too. So you agree with me.
I So there. So there. Felicia agrees. No, I do think it is so, so important. I would say there's one other thing that I think is super fundamental, is as important as marketing, which is your fees and your policies. Because if you have great marketing, but you don't have the right kind of fees and policies for you that actually are going to all work together so that you have the life that you want, the business that you want, the schedule that you want, the money that you want, the time off that you want. You can have the best marketing in the world, but if that is not working in your business, congratulations, you are super fucking busy and you're burnt out, right? So I really do think that is just as important. One of the things that therapists often get stressed out about is that fear that even if they have clients now, this feels very precarious. Like if one person leaves, it's going to be a problem, or I would love to take time off, but I'm so worried that when I come back, some of my clients won't continue and I don't have enough clients inquiring. So then maybe I wouldn't be making enough money. So I just probably shouldn't take vacation. So we keep on putting off these things that we really, really want because we don't have those reliable inquiries. So having really solid marketing can help that. One marketing fundamental for people to understand is a funnel. All businesses have funnels. You've seen a funnel, you know what they look like. There is, Christy,
If you're watching
Vanna
on
White here
YouTube,
demonstrating. It's an upside down triangle, meaning throughout the client journey, the customer journey, more people enter the funnel than make it all the way to the final step, which in a therapy practice would be hiring you, coming in for that initial session, actually paying you money and receiving the service. So more people are going to find out about your work, find out about your business, than are actually going to become paying clients. That is normal. You will not have a 100% conversion rate from one step to the next. No business has this, right? That's not a problem. That is a norm. But when you have a higher volume at the top of your funnel and you do have reasonably good conversion rates from one step to the next, you're going to have a business that makes you feel secure. It's going to allow you that freedom to feel like you can take time off, to feel like you can say no to a client who actually isn't an ideal fit for you, that you can raise your fees because you know more people are coming in. Having those consistent inquiries and those people who are entering the top of your funnel is just so helpful. So that's where marketing comes in. We want to make sure that we are doing things in your business so that your business is getting exposure and people are finding out about it so that they can take that next step with you. And for most therapists, if you're leveraging SEO, if you're working with Christy and her company Place Digital and you're leveraging SEO, someone is going to find out about your business through a search engine like Google, or they might be asking like an AI chatbot for a recommendation. So someone's going to find out about your business, then they're going to come to your website, they're going to click on your contact form, they're going to book a consultation call with you, they're going to attend that consultation call, and then they are going to schedule their first appointment with you. That's usually the flow. You will have many more people visiting your website than who are actually going to become paying clients, but having that volume at the top is so helpful.
If you are hearing Felicia and you like what she's saying, I think she's such a unique voice in this industry. I think she is the antidote to so much bullshit out there that therapists have to listen to and put up with. So definitely start listening to Felicia's podcast if you are liking that.
So I really think that in a therapy business, you really do need to have on one side your fees and your policies dialed in that makes sense for you. You need to know what your perfect fee is. And this is something I work on with my clients. This is something that I teach inside of Liberated Business. And then you also need to have a really, really solid marketing funnel. And so those two things are what's going to set you up for success. So whether you are years into your private practice or you are just starting, these are the things that you need to pay attention to. Even if you're like a unicorn and you're like, oh my God, I haven't really ever needed to market and my practice is just kind of flowing along. First of all, congratulations. Second, do not think that that's going to last forever. This is a great time for you to be investing in building out your marketing funnels so that you know what's actually having an impact in your business. And should you need to kind of turn the faucet on and create more flow, you actually know exactly how to do that. Because the worst thing, again, is when you are years into building your practice and all of a sudden something pinches that hose and it's not flowing anymore and you have no idea why. So whether you're just starting or years in, this is important for you.
And there are so many factors at play. You know, I think 7 years ago when I started doing marketing for therapists is end of 2019. COVID happened less than 6 months later. And then all of a sudden, this pretty antiquated industry kind of hanging out on its own, no one was really messing with it. All of a sudden, it's online. And every tech bro who went to therapy decided that he should start, a mental health app or whatever. So there are so many things really impacting therapists now. So having your own marketing in place, it becomes this sort of moat around your practice. So we have a client in Houston, for example, they have the top 2 spots on the local map pack for EMDR in Houston, which is one of the biggest markets in North America. And I'm just like, what can bring that practice down? Truly. Like, you might have to make some tough decisions along the way, but if your marketing is in place, whatever is heading your way, that's just going to protect you and make sure your company can just ride the inevitable waves and ups and downs that are absolutely headed your way.
Absolutely. And I think so many therapists that started their practices during the pandemic, that left agencies and went into private practice, or left group practices and started their own solo practice, or started group practices, whatever, and saw that really big boom, had a really big correction in 2023. There was a massive market correction in our industry where we flipped from a seller's market to a buyer's market, to borrow a real estate term. We flipped from essentially therapists having the upper hand, for lack of a better word, and that there was just so much demand, to demand really, really slowing down, and therapists that were able to kind of ride that wave of high demand but didn't really do much with their marketing suddenly started to see their inquiries dry up, and they hadn't invested in marketing, so they didn't know how to get in front of people, right? Because there was a period of time where the demand was just so incredibly high that you could be terrible at marketing and still get clients. And then those days ended, right? So whether it's a market correction or it's new technology or new ways that people are looking for therapists, it is so helpful for you to be building out these systems. I don't want to scare you. I'm not saying like, if you don't do these things, then you are doomed, because that's not true. There will always be unicorns. But again, you're listening to this podcast because clearly you're thinking about this, right? Something is going on in your business where maybe you've got great results, but you want to improve it, or you have results that you're still going after and you haven't achieved it yet. So you know something needs to change. So if you are that person, you're really, really ambitious, then these are the things you need to be paying attention to. If you're like, I don't really care, I've got some other source of income, I'm not really invested in this, like being a business that is going to like really help me thrive and give me the life I want, then like, I mean, I don't even know how you found this podcast, right? Like, why would you be listening to this? But if you're like an ambitious person who wants to build a really solid therapy practice that's going to last years and years and years into the future and keep on being profitable, then yeah, you need to care about this. It is that important.
Yeah, and I think mindset around investing. Like, I worked with $1 million practices, and they can't believe that they have to spend $1,000 a month on marketing. And I'm just like, what? How have you gotten there without spending, consistently on marketing? But then that's why they come to us, right? Because something changed.
Yeah, I mean, I would guess that many of those practices really saw a big boom during the pandemic, or perhaps they were primarily insurance-based, but were probably paying their clinicians very little money, and that's how they were able to be so profitable, right? This isn't happening because you don't have to market. This is happening because of other forces. This is happening probably because in some cases, people are being underpaid for their labor, and or there are huge economic forces at play that are having an outsized impact. But every single business under the sun, if it wants any longevity, if it wants any consistency, and to not just be at the mercy of the weather of the economy, right, or the weather of technology, you need to invest in these things. And so you might be able to have a lot of success, again, if you came up during the pandemic without doing much investment in this, but that will run out eventually. We don't always know when, but you cannot rely on those things. It's not going to be sunny forever. So don't wait until it's raining cats and dogs to build a shelter. Build one now.
It's kind of crazy you even have to have this conversation, because I know so many of my other friends in marketing in other industries, they never have to make an argument for marketing.
Right.
They're like, of course you're here. Like, you need marketing. You need me. But it's interesting to need to kind of make an argument for the act of it at all. Like, it's a really interesting, unique thing to the therapy industry.
Well, here's why, Christy. It's because therapists are really, really special. No, I'm kidding. Like I said before, we're not really, really special, but we do think we're very special. And there's something about the work of therapy that is imbued with a sense of nobility, right? There's this kind of we're doing work. This is a livelihood. This is labor, but it's something that is deeply intimate and spiritual.
It's a calling,
It's a calling. It's a
therapists feel that way.
vocation. Exactly. And marketing often feels like this thing that we associate with manipulation, or just trying to get us to spend more money, or it's tawdry, it's lowly, right? So when therapists have this sense, when we have this sense that the work that we're doing is this very sacred, noble work, and then we're considering doing marketing, or someone tells us we need to do marketing, oftentimes our first reaction is ooh, gross. This happens especially if we've had mentors or we have colleagues who are also saying well, I didn't need to market, right? So then we're not only is it gross, but apparently I don't have to because this other person was successful without doing it, right?
Or I'm bad because I have to.
Yeah, I must not be a very good therapist because I have to. So let me run over here and spend more money on clinical trainings, because then I'll just get better at being a therapist. I'll just become the most excellent therapist that ever walked the face of the earth. And then I won't have to do marketing, right?
Yeah.
I used to be that therapist. I absolutely had the attitude of I shouldn't have to market. And it did take me years to really come around to the fact that I knew I needed to do it. And in fact, when I started the Bad Therapist business, when I really was okay, I'm going to go all in on this coaching business, one of the decisions I made early on was I'm going to care about marketing. I'm not going to treat it like some gross thing that I have to do. I'm going to really care about it, because I saw how I wasn't giving its due in my therapy practice, and I saw the impact it had. My therapy practice succeeded in spite of my unwillingness to really engage with marketing. It
So you were the
succeeded
exception?
well, no, because it was successful, but it wasn't like I wasn't hearing from a lot of people. I was really good at retaining my clients. I had higher fees than most people who are starting out. I had a really solid cancellation policy. I had really clear boundaries. I had a specialty. So I had a few things that made it work. I was able to generate 6 figures my first year in private practice, working only 3 days a week. So that's pretty successful. But some of these things that we're talking about, like consistent inquiries, like not having to stress about taking vacation, having like an abundance of money more than I needed, that is not what was happening. So I had some things that I was succeeding in, but I was really succeeding in spite of not caring about marketing. And so when I started this next business, the Bad Therapist business, I was like, I'm going to do this differently. And now I have so much respect for marketing because my attitude has completely changed about how clients choose who to work with. My attitude around marketing before really had a lot to do with my own ego and really thinking, well, I'm just a good therapist, so people should just hire me, which really completely ignored to the fact that someone else is making a decision about how to spend their money and who they should trust. The way I understand marketing now is it's really the way that I go out into the world. I put myself forward and I let people know, hey, I'm the right person for you. And I respect that you are making a decision here and you have no reason to just believe me when I say, hey, I'm just a really good therapist. I mean, honestly, I at the very least, I need to tell you that, and that's what marketing is. Or I need to like appeal to you and speak to the problems that you have because that's what's really important to you. It doesn't matter to you necessarily that I think I'm the shit, right? You need to know that I can actually help you with your problem. And that's where marketing comes in. And I respect you as the consumer that you need good information to make that decision. That's marketing. It's not some gross thing. It's about respecting the journey that your client is on before they actually hire you and not just kind of like doing nothing until they get in the room, right? Our job starts before they actually hire us.
And you need to be in front of people to even start that. It's really making yourself less accessible, I think, if you're not investing in marketing, especially if you're a group practice owner and you have great clinicians and you're like, I know that we can really, really change things here in our community. Marketing is just the way to get there. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. You are just so wise with all of this stuff. And yeah, please check out Felicia's podcast, get on her email list. Felicia is a business coach, but she is a great marketer as well. So even just observing the things that she's doing, I think you can learn just so much from Felicia in many, many ways.
Thank you so much for having me here, Christy. It's always so fun to talk with you. And this was a blast. Like you said, I could talk about this forever. And folks want to learn more, head to my website, thebadtherapist.coach. My podcast is called The Bad Therapist Show. I put out new episodes every week, so give that a listen.
And that's it for this week's episode. If you want to connect, you can find me on LinkedIn or Instagram at Christy_PlaceDigital. If you're interested in working with me and my team, you can head over to placedigital.com. I'm Christy Plantinga. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.